Hi guys, welcome to another video. Hope you're all keeping well. Now for this video I thought to do my all-time top 10 favourite Universal monster movies. Now as you will all know if you've been following my channel regularly, I am a huge fan of the Universal monster movies. These were the movies that I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. These were the movies that first made me a horror fan. Such classics and that. Now, compiling this all-time top 10 was fairly easy, but there's just one or two. I just wanted to sort of like swap around a little bit. Just purely based on the quality and enjoyability factor, which is like barely like it. Well, it's very slim actually. Not really much between them actually, really. But you most probably recognise the movies I'm referring to once I start listing them. Yeah. Oh, before I start the top 10, guys, I'd just like to give an honorary mention to The Creature from the Black Lagoon from 1954. Just missed out on making my all-time top 10 favourite Universal monster movies. Love that movie, but there's movies that I enjoyed just that little bit more. But it's a great movie, yeah. And if I had a really if people were to ask me what's the Universal monster movie what you least enjoyed, I would have to say, without hesitation, Dracula's Daughter from 1936. It was a little bit reminiscent of the Twilight movies. There wasn't really much vampire horror in it, but yeah, very poor movie, Dracula's Daughter. So I think if there was doing a rating of every single Universal monster movie, I think that would come bottom of the list. Yeah. But enough said on that. All right then, guys. So as I say, yeah. So this is my all-time top 10 favorite Universal monster movies. Yours will most probably be different, if you're a Universal fan, please discuss in the comments down below, what's your all-time top 10 favourite Universal monsters. I'd be very interested, to read them. Yeah. All right then, guys, without further ado, we're going to start with number 10. Now, number 10 is The Invisible Man from 1933, starring Claude Rains. Absolutely a classic movie, from Universal. Really great watch and a great rewatchability factor. Great scenes and that, where the Invisible Man unravels his bandages and that, and starts laughing at all the policemen and that, and very well done. Yeah, and absolute classic of a movie. Yeah, the best Invisible Man movie really out of all the Invisible Man movies that Universal made. This has got to be the best one, the original classic starring Claude Rains. So there you go guys, that's number 10 on my list of my all-time top 10 favourites Universal monster movies, and that is The Invisible Man. Number 9 on my list is Dracula from 1931, starring Bela Lugosi. Now, although my all-time favourite Dracula is Christopher Lee, I still got a soft spot for Bela Lugosi because that was the first Dracula movie that I ever watched as a kid. On our little black and white telly way back in the late 60s. Yeah. Absolutely redolent with atmosphere. I love everything about the movie. A Trip to Dracula's Castle, by Jonathan Harker. The setting and that, the backdrop, and Bela Lugosi, very creepy as Count Dracula, and I know his character, his version of Dracula has been spoofed, because many years have gone by and that, and he's been spoofed again in various comedy shows and that and what have you. But I still think, I would rate him as the second best Dracula, just behind Christopher Lee. Yeah, he does an excellent job, and some of this movie can be a little bit slow in parts, but that's not to take anything away from it, because it's a very although it's quite short, as most of the Universal monster movies were, that particular decade and indeed into the 40s. Still great. I still have a blast whenever I revisit this movie. It's an absolute classic, and Bela Lugosi, he is fantastic in the role of Count Dracula, very sinister, and I just love his voice, so there you go, guys. That is number 9 on my list, and that is Dracula from 1931. Number 8 on my list is Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein from 1948. Wow, guys, I can't tell you how many times I've watched this movie over the years. Although it is like a comedy spoof, I love the way that they get the balance right between the comedy and the horror. I love the way the monsters played straight. Lon Chaney Jr. returns as the Wolfman. Glenn Strange reprises his role as the Frankenstein monster. Bela Lugosi is back as Dracula, and you'd even get a cameo by the Invisible Man at the end. Vincent Price's voice. Yeah, oh yeah, love everything about this movie. I love, yeah, highlights for me include the part where Talbot's on the phone, ringing Abbott and Costello up and saying about the dangers of having the two monsters in the crates and that, Frankenstein's monster and Dracula in this guy. He's got a chamber of horrors and that, and Talbot's on the phone and that, I just love the part where he changes when he's on the phone, and Lou Costello, I think he plays, his character's called Wilbur. He says look, Mr. Talbot, if you're going to start barking at me over the phone like a dog, I'm gonna put this phone down. Oh yeah, so many classic movies and that, and great fight scenes as well at the end and that, the Wolfman and that, fighting Dracula and that, and Frankenstein's monster gets in on the fray and that, and oh yeah, I think this is my all-time favourite #1 horror comedy, guys. Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Excellent performances, and as I say, I love the way they balance that. I love the way they get the balance right between the comedy aspect and the horror aspect. Yeah, I've watched it, as I say, watched it many times, and I'm most probably watching it again very soon. So there you go, guys. That is number 8 on my list, and that is Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein from 1948. Number 7 on my list is The House of Frankenstein from 1944. Now, even though Boris Karloff doesn't play the Frankenstein monster, he's equally good in the role of the sinister Dr. Nimon, who escapes from prison and that, and he's an admirer of Dr. Frankenstein, and he escapes from a prison together with Daniel, his hunchbacked assistant, and that, he takes over Professor Lampini's Chamber of Horrors, and he revives Count Dracula, and then he goes on to it. He finds the Wolfman and the Frankenstein monster both frozen in ice and that, and it revives them as well. And that Dracula doesn't last very long in this movie, actually, as is also the case with the House of Dracula. Played by John Carradine on this occasion. But oh yeah, Boris Karloff, real sinister as Dr. Nimon, Dr. Gustav Nimon. I love the part at the beginning where he breaks out of prison and that, and he sort of gets all dressed up and that, and as I say, takes over Professor Lampini's Chamber of Horrors. He gets his hunchback assistant to murder Lampini, and then he takes as I say, takes control and that, travels all over the country and that. Yeah, he's absolutely a real huge admirer of Dr. Frankenstein. And when Talbot's revived from the ice and that, well, the first thing he does, he says can you help me in that, free me from this curse of lycanthropy. Well, of course, Dr. Nimon stuff. Well, if you've seen the movie, guys, you know what I mean. Dr. Nimon keeps putting them off and that because he's mostly interested in the Frankenstein monster reviving him. Yeah, oh yeah, great performances all around by Lon Chaney Jr., Boris Karloff, J. Carroll Naish as the Hunchback. And the Gypsy Girl, who there's a bit of love competition there between Talbot and Daniel and that, because the Gypsy Girl rejects Daniel because he's got a hunchback and he's ugly and that, she's very hurtful what she says to him and that, because she's fallen for Talbot, but oh yeah, so many great scenes and that, and Glenn Strange does a great job as the Frankenstein monster as well. Yeah, and I love the part as well where the villagers, converge on the laboratory in a traditional universal way, and the monster's got Boris Karloff under his arm, Dr. Nimon, and he's coming out of the laboratory, trying to get away from the village, and he's going like that with his hands and that, and Dr. Nimon says, no, don't go this way, quicksand, don't go that way, don't go that way, don't go this way. And he's just I think he gets a bit mixed up. He says, don't go this way, quicksand, don't go that way, quicksand, and that, well, you all know what happens in that, but if you haven't seen the movie, I won't reveal you. But it's great, it's saying, I think it's one of the first real monster bashes, The House of Frankenstein. Great movie, and it's great to see all the monsters together. So there you go, guys. That is number 7 on my list, and that is The House of Frankenstein from 1944. Number 6 on my list is another monster bash, The House of Dracula from 1945. Now, you get the monsters returning again, Lon Chaney Jr. as the Wolfman Lawrence Talbot, this time sporting a little moustache and that, and you get Glenn Strange reprising his role as a Frankenstein monster. John Carradine's back as Dracula, and then you get an additional monster in the form of Dr. Edelman, played brilliantly by Onslow Stevens, who actually helps Talbot you know, finally be cured of his lycanthropy and that. That's why I've put that just above House of Frankenstein, you know, because I love the part where the Wolfman gets cured. He finally has a happy ending, you know, he's finally cured by a kindly doctor. But that doctor, he eventually becomes contaminated with Dracula's blood, and he turns to a kind of a Mr. Hyde character, and he goes on a killing rampage. And of course, like, when Talbot hears about it now, he's very concerned and that, you know. So he says, look, the villagers must probably think it was me, you know, the Wolfman that killed him. But in actual fact, it's Dr. Namon, when he's been contaminated with the blood of Dracula. And all the way changes and that. He stands in front of the mirror and he gets this, like, his features go like Mr. Hyde. And that he gets this real dark look in his eyes and that. Oh, yeah, it's great to have an additional monster. Yeah, but a great, as I say, I've just put this above House of Frankenstein for the happy ending. You know, Lawrence Talbot, he's finally cured. If you disregard Abbott Costello, which I don't say regard that as a continuation, because I like to think that it was more of a spoof horror movie, and that, you know, Talbot's cured, and as far as I'm concerned, he's got a happy ending. Yeah, so there you go, guys. That is number 6 on my list, and that is The House of Dracula from 1945. Number 5 on my list is Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from 1943. Oh, what can I say about this classic Universal movie, guys? I think this is one of the ones I've watched the most, you know. It's great to see the Wolfman back, you know, Lawrence Talbot and that. He's resurrected from his tomb and that by these 2 grave robbers who break in, you know, at the dead of night, just before the moon rises, and he tried to rob jewellery from Talbot's corpse. And all the part where the moon shines through the window onto Talbot's form in the coffin, and you see just his hand and that, and all the wolfbane, and then he comes alive and he grabs hold of the one of the robbers and that, you know, because the robber, sorry guys, the robber basically craps his pants and that, you know, because Talbot he's come back from the dead as the Wolfman. And then there follows a great story where Talbot travels all over Europe trying to find Maliva, the gypsy woman whose son Bela was responsible for Talbot's case and that, and he finally finds her, and Maliva takes Talbot under the wing and that, yeah. But then it goes on to, like, because she says, I know a man who can help you, Dr. Frankenstein of all people. But when he gets to Visaria, it turns out that Frankenstein's dead, you know. He perished with the monster, so Talbot's devastated and that, you know. So, but he turns into Wolfman, of course, as expected and that. And he falls down a hole into Frankenstein's ruined castle, and he discovers the monster, and then of course he thaws him out and that, and then all hell breaks loose, really. So it's a great team up between 2 legendary monsters. The Frankenstein monster, played this time by Bela Lugosi, and the Wolfman, played by Lon Chaney Jr. And I must say, a fantastic performance delivered by Maria Ouspenskaya as Maliva, the old gypsy woman. It's real cool to see her back, you know, helping Talbot and that, you know. And you really feel sorry for Lon Chaney Jr. in this movie. I always remember that scene where he accompanies, Frankenstein's daughter, Elsa Frankenstein, to like a festival of the new wine, and this fella, he's singing a song like, you know, Father La, Father D. You know, it's great to, you know, sort of like basically the theme is, you know, life, you know, we should celebrate life and that, you know, life is short but death is long. And he comes over to Talbot's table. Well, Talbot hits the roof. He just jumps up and grabs it. I don't want to live eternally. Or one of the almost memorable scenes in a horror movie. You know, you really feel sorry for Talbot and that. You know, this fella coming up at Satan like a like a drunken idiot and a poor bother him and that. You know, with a stupid song, and all he wants to do is die. Oh, I think that's one of the greatest movies. That is one of the greatest moments in horror movie history, that scene, the Festival of the New Wine. If you type it in on YouTube, guys, you'll see exactly what I mean. The way Lon Chaney portrays that character, Lawrence Talbot, he should have got an Oscar for that. He really got over the pain, you know. See, a lot of people think American Werewolf, I'm not going too much away from the subject of Universal, but a lot of people think American Werewolf in London is better than the Wolfman. No, as much as I love American Werewolf in London, I've got to say, Talbot's, Lon Chaney's Wolfman was the number one. In every single movie he made, the way he portrayed the pain of being cursed by the werewolf and that, I don't think anybody's come near portraying the sheer pain and horror what he went through in those Wolfman movies, yeah. So Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman is a fantastic, it's more of a Wolfman movie than a Frankenstein monster movie, but yeah, it's a fantastic, yeah. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you check out Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. Fantastic, yeah. So there you go, guys. That is number 5 on my list, and that is Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from 1943. Number 4 on my list is The Wolfman from 1941. Oh, guys, again, I could sit here all afternoon spouting superlatives about how fantastic this movie is. You've got Lon Chaney Jr., playing Lawrence Talbot, curse to suffer lycanthropy, when he gets bitten by Maleevas, the gypsy woman's son, Bailey, to become a werewolf, oh yeah, it's got everything, this movie. Great cast. Claude Rains is fantastic as Lon Chaney's father, Sir John Talbot. Again, Maleeva, the old gypsy woman played by Maria Ouspenskaya, fantastic performance. Bela Lugosi's in it for a bit as a son and that, but he's the werewolf and he inflicts Talbot, when Talbot's trying to save a woman in the fog-bound woods being attacked by Bailey. He sort of like, he kills her, but he gets bitten in the process and he becomes a werewolf, the Wolfman. So oh yeah, one of my all-time favourite horror movies, and the best Wolfman in horror movie history is Lon Chaney Jr. The Wolfman's got everything, iconic performances, atmosphere. I love the fog-bound forest and that, and a fantastic cast all around. So there you go, guys. That is number 4 on my list, and that's The Wolfman from 1941. Number 3 on my list is Son of Frankenstein from 1939. Boris Karloff's third and final outing as the Frankenstein monster. Again, great movie by Universal. Yeah, Bela Lugosi's fantastic as Igor, who befriends Karloff's monster, and a very, very murderous, menacing character is Igor, and you've got like Frankenstein's son, Wolf von Frankenstein, journeying back to his father's castle, and he finds the monster in a coma, and he's sort of like watched over by Igor, and Igor gets Wolf to try and revive the monster, but he tries to revive him, but he doesn't seem to have any success. And then, but in the next minute, the monster's walking around and Wolf's flabbergasted, and Igor says in his sinister voice, he got up as soon as you went. He got up and walked around. Always really sinister, Igor. Bela Lugosi's Igor in this, yeah. He comes back again in the Ghost of Frankenstein, guys, yeah. But oh yeah, fantastic movie and that. Great performance, as I say. Bela Lugosi as Igor. Boris Karloff, this time sporting like a fleecy sort of like armless sort of like jumper. And which you look quite cool in, actually. It made a change from all the black shirts and the black jackets and that. I thought you looked really cool in that sort of like sheepskin, sort of like fair out thing he wore. And Basil Rathbone's great in that, as Frankenstein's son. And real atmospheric, the dark sort of like the huge castle and that, with its long corridors and winding staircases and that. Oh, nobody could evoke classic horror, black and white scenarios like Universal, and by God, they really did a great job in this movie, guys. Yeah, it's a fine trilogy, the Frankenstein trilogy by Boris Karloff. I just wish he would have made more Frankenstein movies, because he was fantastic playing the Frankenstein monster. And in this movie, he is very, very dark and he's very, very murderous. Yeah, I think this is the since Frankenstein, this is the second movie where he's most sinister and murderous, the Frankenstein monster. So there you go, guys. That is number 3 on my list, and that is Son of Frankenstein from 1939. Number 2 on my list is The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935. Again, I could sit here all afternoon spouting superlative after superlative after superlative about how much I absolutely love this movie. It's the greatest sequel it ever made. I would rank it right up there with Psycho 2. As a greatest horror movie sequels, yeah. Oh, so many great things about this, guys. Obviously Colin Clive does a great job at creating the bride of the monster, which of course, like it goes down a very sad route, and you've got the sinister Dr. Pretorius, played brilliantly by Ernest Thesiger. He sort of like wants Frankenstein to make a mate as well for the monster and that, very, very sinister character. And I love the part where he's got all like the little mannequins and in live mannequins in the glass jars and that, that was a bit of a quirky addition to the movie and that, And in this movie, the monster learns to talk. I love the scene in the blind man's hut, in the blind man's hut, where he teaches him, he said, the blind man says, I've been longing for a friend and that, and he teaches the monster how to smoke and drink, and the monster, he's puffing away, smoke, good, yeah. And he's sort of like, and the blind man starts, he gets the fiddle out and starts playing, and the monster's going like that and that, oh, fantastic, enjoying the music and that, until that both the pair are rudely interrupted by angry villagers and that who burst in and that, so oh yeah, great graveyard scenes as well. I love the part where it continues directly from Frankenstein, the first Frankenstein, the burning windmill, and the way the monster's still alive under the windmill in the water and that. Oh, it's a fantastic movie. One of the greatest horror sequels ever made, and that's my number 2, guys. That is The Bride of Frankenstein from 1935, an absolute classic of a horror movie. Well, finally, guys, we come to my number 1, in my top 10 list of my all-time favourite Universal monster movies, and that is Frankenstein from 1931. Very, very close call, guys, between The Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein. But I had to put this at number 1 because this was the movie that got me into horror. This is the movie I've gone back to again and again and again and again. Boris Karloff is just fantastic in the role of the Frankenstein monster. As is Colin Clive, who plays Henry Frankenstein. I don't know why they called him Henry Frankenstein in this movie, because he's always been called Victor. But yeah, maybe they had the reasons. I don't know, yeah. But oh yeah, great movie, yeah. I love the part where he brings the monster to life and that, and in the infamous scene where he says, now I know what it feels like to be God. Colin Clive is very, very dramatic, very theatrical in his role as Henry Frankenstein and that, and I love it when you first see the Frankenstein monster, dressed all in black. He sort of like comes into the room backwards and he turns around and that. I just love the whole look of the Karloff monster, the brow and that, and the heavy lidded eyes and that. Anyway, his actions and that, he snarls and that, and the actions with his hands, he's trying to sort of like convey, he's sort of like he's softening basically, he basically didn't want to be creative. And Karloff is fantastic the way he puts over the monster's actions and that, goes like that with his hands and that, and makes these pitiable noises and that, but he's also got a murderous streak to him, because when he's aggravated by the villagers, he becomes this rampaging monster. And of course, we mustn't forget the scene with the little girl, very, very harrowing scene where the girl's throwing the flowers into the lake and that, and we all know what happens there, don't we? Yeah. But yeah, this is stands head and shoulders, guys, above all the other Universal monster movies for me. It's an absolute classic, and I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, this was the movie that got me into horror. Frankenstein 1931, starring the late great Boris Karloff, was the movie that made me a horror fan, and of course closely followed by the Bride of Frankenstein, which just missed out by such a small fraction by topping the list. Yeah, but I think the reason why I put all the Frankenstein movies at the top, they're my favourite trilogy of all the Universal monsters. The Frankenstein Karloff trilogy are my favourites. Yeah. Closely followed, of course, by the Wolfman Lon Chaney Jr. Yeah, oh yeah. If you haven't seen Frankenstein 1931, you need to see it. If you like your classic horror, your classic Universal horror, you need to make Frankenstein 1931 the first one. If you haven't seen any of them, the first one to watch. Yeah, but such a classic. Yeah, and I don't think anybody's ever bettered Karloff playing the Frankenstein monster. Glenn Strange was okay, but he wasn't Karloff. Bela Lugosi was okay, but he wasn't Karloff. It's a great pity Boris Karloff didn't play anymore Frankenstein monsters. I thought, I would have, just like Christopher Lee, Dracula, and Lon Chaney Jr., the Wolfman, I could have watched Karloff play the monster again and again. He was that good, and of course he was very, very grateful, Karloff, in subsequent interviews many years later. He was very grateful, for being, playing the part of the monster and all the fan adulation and that, and oh yeah, he's fantastic, Boris Karloff, but he's fantastic in all three Frankenstein movies, Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein. Yeah, so there you go, guys. That's number 1 on my all-time top 10 favourite Universal monster movies. That is Frankenstein from 1931. Alright then, guys, that's it. That concludes my list, my top 10 Universal monster movies. What's your top 10 Universal monster movies? I'd be very interested, let me know in the comments down below what's your all-time top 10. I could talk about Universal monsters till the cows come home. I absolutely love them. I really do. And of course, like it goes without saying, they were a huge inspiration for the horror movies, what we've got today. They always pop up in, people talk about horror, live streams, conventions, Universal monsters. They're not very far away from being broached. Yeah, such classic movies and that, and it's great to own them all. I'm owning them all now on 4K bit by bit. I've got I've got the main ones that got released last year, but I believe they're releasing The Bride of Frankenstein on 4K in October. And is it The Invisible Man? a couple of the others as well they're releasing. Yeah, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, so I'll pick those up. The only Universal monsters I'm not really well, they're okay, but I'm not really mad about are the Phantom of the Opera and the Mummy. Not really great. They're the movies what I've least watched, especially the Phantom of the Opera. Yeah, I think it's all the opera in it, guys, I think, but yeah. But I love the Creature from the Black Lagoon. I love the other two creatures as well. But Frankenstein is my #1 monster and always will be. Alright then, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed my top 10, all-time top 10 Universal Monster movies. And the usual, if you like the video, please feel free to share, subscribe, comments. And all going well, I'll be back again very, very soon with another video. And all those who've entered the prize draw so far, I wish us all the very best of luck. Alright then, guys, that's it. Enjoy your weekend. Bye for now.